right. Now, I told you last week at the beginning of the year that this show was going to change direction in 2010. We are going to show you, just like we have in the first half, we're going to show you what the progressives are doing and how they are slowly but surely robbing Americans of individual choices and liberties, and quite honestly, robbing the bank as well. But here's what we're changing. How do we bring America back to her principles that she was founded on? How do we regain the freedoms our founding fathers fought for? Oh, that's great and everything. What do we do about it, Glenn? That's what I hear all the time. Well, I don't know. I'm not a leader of any movement by any stretch of the imagination. Although I have made suggestions, and many people have picked those flags up and made it their goal in their own community. But if I may quote a short little creature with big ears, yes, yes. You must unlearn what you have learned. Yes, yes. Ooh, fear the dark side. Don't look at the R's and the D's. That's what we've been trained to do. This is an election year, and I got to tell you, some real trouble is coming. You have to step outside the left versus right box and start looking up and down, not this way. Both sides have led us down a path from independence towards dependence. Dependence on Washington. It is time to clear a new path. And the same old R's and D's are not going to lead the way this time. Who will? My radio show, we just changed the theme at the top of the hour. We search everywhere for answers, but we must remember we will be the key. We must remember who we are, for we will be the key. I'm going to explain that and teachers, because teachers really are going to lead the way, but not the traditional teacher. But first, I want you to listen to a letter that I just received from a friend of mine this weekend. My friend is a Democrat and a liberal. He wrote to me and said, Glenn, it is becoming evident to me that we are on the cusp of the most volatile and most dynamic political moment in our lifetime. The surging forces, I think, are now clearly discernible. What is not discernible is how they will be manifested, for the outcome itself remains to be determined. The issue, indeed, is this nation's future. As you constantly argue, it is in genuine doubt. It is a moment, potentially, of fantastic renewal, a national restoration. But it is also potentially dark and even dangerous, destructive moment that could seal the descent of the last best hope of mankind. He writes to me this weekend and says, this is not to be melodramatic, but I say it because it's the truth. The last time you had me on your show, I stated that I had a message for the political class. The people are coming, and they're coming for you. Honestly, it was something that I had not prepared. It just erupted from deep inside of me, and I believe it to my very core. Oh, yes, they're coming. What is in question is how and the way they will come, and importantly, the purpose in which they come with. These will be paramount in the shaping of the character of their reaction as the corrupt, entrenched powers inevitably act to undermine, discredit, and crush them. The American people do not need a leader to command them. They need teachers and protectors. Here is the man who wrote this letter to me over the weekend, Pat Caddell. He is a former senior advisor to President Carter. He is also a Fox News contributor. Pat, I was struck by the tone of your letter because I've been saying now for a while that I believe an event is coming, and this is why I keep preaching peace, 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 because from Al-Qaeda to just plain old crazy people, and I know that's hard to separate Al-Qaeda from crazy people, anybody makes a move now, it could seal the fate of the Republic in a very bad and dark way. Agree or disagree?
Well, I think that the danger is, I think we have, when the country is divided between the people and its leaders, and the frustration of the people is they are not heard, they are not listened to, they're not only ignored, they're by the entire political class. They are acting on their own, for their own power. Somebody may do something, some event will happen, something that will discredit everything. We must guard against that.
Okay.
The most important issue here is that.
You write in there that we don't need a leader, we need teachers. What do you mean by that?
We need people to teach America. Americans know who they are. They know what they're about. They're not being told enough of where they come from, of what their own history is. But they know, and what they need is to be reminded of who they are and what they have done. They carry in their own blood the history of a people that changed the world. And they didn't change it as Democrats and Republicans. They changed it as Americans. And they need to be taught that. They need to be taught that they do have the power. And they need to be taught that they be responsible. In Page Smith, in 1976, in his epic two-volume history of the American Revolution, made the case that the American Revolution is not about the founding fathers, even the leaders we know. It was a bottom-up revolution. It was the people. At the Stamp Act, which took place in 1765, he said, when the country rioted from Boston to Charleston, and they did it over the stamps and the stamp tax, he said, the leaders, American leaders, suddenly revolutionary leaders discovered they didn't need to teach the American people about freedom. American people knew about freedom. They needed to teach them about self-government. We need to teach the people how to act in their own interest and then get out of their way. They don't need to be manipulated.
Right. And I think as more and more people... and
they need the truth.
Right. And this is what I think the politicians in Washington, they don't understand that the paradigm is changing if it hasn't already changed. I believe it already has changed. I did a show here a couple of weeks ago, and I asked the audience, how many of you people were reading things about the Founding Fathers 12 to 18 months ago? I think I had 3 or 4 hands go up. When I said, how many people are currently reading something on the Founding Fathers, I believe everybody but maybe 3 hands went up. People are rediscovering our own history. And there was a very disturbing poll that I saw, and this comes from the American History Survey, and it is, you ready for this? Only 19% knew this. Who said the following? From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. Was that George Washington, Barack Obama, Karl Marx, or Thomas Paine? There was a 5th option here, don't know. 19% knew. What's the answer, Pat?
That's Karl Marx.
Karl Marx. 19% knew. They were split between Barack Obama and George Washington. Now, I could be split between Karl Marx and Barack Obama because it makes it, I could hear him say that. But George Washington, that shows to me that the American people have absolutely no idea who these people were and what they believed. True or false?
Well, I think no, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think a lot of specifics. People hear things and think, well, what did that mean? They're in a survey. But we don't teach history. We don't remind us who we are. And we don't remind the fundamental, and certainly the political class does in this country, that who is sovereign, which is the people, not them.
Help me out on that. Wait.
Yep.
Help me out on this. Same survey. You say people really don't, they misunderstand. Try this one on for size. Only about 50% got this one right. Is the Bill of Rights part of A, the U.S. Constitution, B, the Declaration of Independence, C, the Gettysburg Address, D, the Articles of Confederation, or I don't know? The Bill of Rights. Now, I don't know about you, but that one's a pretty easy one if you have paid attention at all as to what's going on. This is why they can ram through and say, we're going to create another right in Congress, because people don't know the Constitution. Agree with that one?
Because we don't teach our history. It was, of course it's the Constitution. We don't teach our history. We don't, look, for students, there was a survey, students take 3 classes in their whole career on civics and on American history. How are you supposed to know if you're not taught? Yes, we're supposed to be concerned about science and math, but we need to understand that free people are only free if they understand who they are and where they come from, their history. And we neglect that at our peril. And by the way, I think a lot of people in power would just as soon have the people ignorant. They believe that serves their interest.
Of course they would. That's why the founders... That's why the founders wanted an education. They wanted people to be educated. They needed them to be educated, because if you're not educated, I mean, what was the first thing they did with slaves? It was illegal to teach a slave how to read.
Illegal. You could be...
Exactly right.
Yes, it was a capital offense in some places.
Exactly right, because once you teach a man how to read, once you teach him how to learn, and just set him on that path, he'll never be a slave.
And how to think.
Exactly right. We'll be back in just a second.